Hello friends, my name is Deepak Dayal. I am the managing partner for DayalLegal Associates. Today's video is all for NRIs, legal services which are required by non-resident Indian citizens. Now, very simply putting it, we all know who NRIs are, people who are originally from India and have gone overseas to work and live for various reasons. Now, there are few important problems which sometimes NRIs face, and I can probably relate more to all of you because I myself have worked and lived overseas for many years. I've spent over 14 years overseas. I understand the pain areas, the areas where most NRIs find the maximum amount of difficulties when it comes to their legal issues, specifically things which they may or may not want to do in connection with India. Now, one important aspect for all NRIs is that they live far away from India. They could be in North America, US, Canada, Europe, Middle East, Australia, Singapore, and various other countries. We will find Indians living in many countries today. Geographically, you are away. Yes, technology has brought us together, but Indian rules and regulations are changing and keeping up with the times, but yet India is a developing country. Our legal system is not at par with those of the Western countries or more developed countries. So what are the main areas where I feel you may require some more information, some more assistance? One is on the personal side. NRI marriages, marriage registrations, divorce, separation, adoption, surrogacy, child custody, huge issues. Specifically because the reason is that at least two countries' rules come into the picture. One is definitely the Indian rules and the other is the host country rules where you may have now migrated to. All countries' rules are not similar. Yes, Commonwealth countries have similar rules, but yet fundamentally there may be very many differences. It is also based on your religion. Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, Jainis, Christians, there are different rules also which could come into the picture. Besides personal law, there are other areas which I will briefly be covering. One is on real estate. Most Indians living overseas either have invested in India or may have inherited properties in India. Okay. Both these cases, whether you like it or not, you have real estate investments in India. And many of us may want to continue. India is a great destination and good place to make your money grow. But for various reasons, you have moved out of India. You may wish to reduce your real estate exposure in India, may want to sell your properties, may want to take your money back to your host countries. You may want to invest in India in real estate, so you may want to bring in money into India and earn good income on it through rental dividends, rental yields, or capital appreciation. But whatever your circumstances are, at the end of the day, maybe it could be after 1 year or maybe after 50 years, you would want to have your money in the host country in which you are living because it's your money and your investments. Banking rules and regulations over the years for NRIs have undergone drastic changes. We are all familiar with NRI and NRO accounts. I will not go into very basics. Everybody understands it and the FCNR. What happens when you sell your property? What are the documents required for selling your property? Is a PAN card or an Aadhaar card mandatory or not when there is a property transaction happening? What are the KYC rules? Secondly, when you get the money into your bank account in India, what are the rules and regulations for you to repatriate the funds? One of the biggest problems, and we are day in and day out fighting on behalf of clients at times because financial institutions, although all banks are governed under the same RBI rules, but they all interpret the rules differently. Public sector banks have a slightly different take. They're more conservative. Private sector banks, some are better, some are still very rigid when it comes to interpretation of law. Law is the same, it isn't black and white, but it is always the interpretation of law and interpretation by the person who is the decision maker, that branch manager in the bank or the sale deed registrar at the property real estate office is the one who's trying to interpret the law. And based on his own knowledge, some of them are helpful, some are not helpful, and usually the client suffers. Okay, so fully understanding what are the rules, what are your responsibilities, liabilities, it is very important to fully understand. Can you invest in all mutual funds in India? Can you invest in stocks? Again, what is the taxation issues on your investments in India? And obviously, most important, how do you take your money back? We will have a separate section on all these aspects which I have just mentioned. OCI card, again, is most Indians who have changed their passports and are today nationals of another country, yet have taken the OCI card. And the OCI card has many distinct advantages. You do not for life need a visa to come to India. It's your home country, I would say. You do not need to stand in queues to get a visa for India, which was always a difficult, expensive, and time-consuming proposition. But KYC norms for OCIs, how frequently do you have to update the information on your OCI card? The pictures may require updation, your signatures may have changed. How do you coordinate? Whom do you coordinate? Do you coordinate with the Indian embassies, consulates in your host countries? Do you contact somebody in India for all these services? So we will give you more information and you will get much more clarity on all these matters. Okay, another important topic is will, specifically for NRIs. Now, you may have parents here who live in India, who may own bank accounts, investments in mutual funds, stocks, jewelry, real estate. Okay, and yes, your parents want to give, whatever they own usually is given to the next of kin, the children, but the assets may be in India. Parents may be living in India and you are living somewhere overseas. So when everybody is in India, the will registration is a very simple and standard and basic process, because the beneficiary is also resident Indian, the person who's making the will is also Indian, and all the assets are also in India. So everything is pretty straightforward. It is just a simple process of making the will, getting it registered, you have the witnesses in place, and wills can be enforced without any difficulties. Now the challenge arises when you are living overseas. You probably have a different passport as well. You could be holding again American, British, Singaporean, Australian passport. So you are an overseas foreign national, but yes, you have OCI card. So everything can be transferred, but the KYC requirements and the paperwork required for all these transfers and the will is little bit different. And you need to fully be aware of those differences so that later on you do not face any difficulties. It could also be that you are living overseas and assets are owned by you in India. Again, bank accounts, pretty straightforward. Financial instruments, pretty straightforward. Problem usually is with the real estate side. Now you live overseas and your assets in real estate are in India. You could be a joint owner between husband and wife, jointly. Usually many people have joint properties. Your children could be living in your country as well, in the same country as in which you are, but the property is in India, and God forbid something happens to you, then how do we ensure that your property is transferred to your children's name, and if they want to sell it, they are easily able to sell it and take the proceeds of that real estate back to the home countries. Now it sounds very simple, but actually it can get hugely complex and frustrating on the implementation side of it. We have seen thousands of clients facing huge difficulties when it comes to enforcement of the will, making sure that the documentation is completed at the registrar's office, and if there is a sale to happen, it happens smoothly. Proceeds are going into your bank accounts, to your beneficiaries' bank accounts, and then the beneficiaries are able to take the money overseas. And also it's a complex issue of the, obviously we all want to minimize our tax liabilities also. So how do you ensure minimizing your tax liabilities on sale of any of these proceeds? So we will have a separate session entirely on real estate transactions for NRIs, whether you want to buy or sell, or how to make a will which has a real estate component in it. Very, very important, because the stakes are high, the values are high, and you obviously need to ensure that everything goes through smoothly, tax efficiently, and people who need to take, whoever the beneficial owner is, gets the money as they deserve. Okay, this topic which we are covering now for NRIs is on personal law. Marriage registration, divorce, adoption, surrogacy, custody, alimony. Obviously there are many cases in recent times where the husband is living in America, he comes, the person comes to India to get married, gets married here, marriage gets registered here, and the husband goes back to the host country and the visa is being processed for the wife here, and later on either the visa is not processed correctly, or there could be a problem at the immigration authorities, so the wife is not able to join the husband. Those are some of the starting points of difficulties. You could be two Indian citizens with Indian passports, may be living overseas for work and may want to be separated or divorced from each other, but currently you are not living in India. So how does a divorce proceeding happen when either one or both the parties are not living in India? Within India, divorce laws are not very straightforward, and it's a very complex, time-consuming legal battle which is fought if it is not divorced by mutual consent. If it is to be challenged by either one party, then it is getting even more complex. And if there is a child which the couple has, and there is a divorce which is, they're not able to get along with each other, then what is the status and the situation for the child? Who is to take custody of the child? One parent could be living in India, the other one could be in overseas, or both could be in overseas, or they could be living in India but they may have a foreign passport now. The child could have an Indian passport or an overseas passport. So for details, one needs to look into the exact nature of the case. We've also come across a lot of instances where husband and wife both have, let's say, Australian or American passport. The child also has a foreign passport. They both come back to India for a few years. Husband goes back, wants to take the child with them. Wife does not want that. There is a custody situation there. And it is really, really complex, because would you then rely on the American courts, or do you rely totally on Indian courts? Jurisdiction issues come in big time. Matters can get complex, but what we will try to do is suggest simple ways where these problems can be handled in a better fashion, hopefully with spending less time and money to sort out these issues. Okay, briefly I will cover the topic of banking and investment laws for NRIs. Now, most people when they move out of India usually go have a better quality of life, hopefully have a higher standard of living, earn more money. Many of them want to start sending money in India to take care of their parents, to buy a house. They still feel that till the time they are just on a work visa, there is uncertainty. The local rules of any country may change overnight and they may have to come back to India. So they will want to keep their primary assets and a lot of money in India also. Even when they have taken up foreign passports, for various reasons, people do want to keep some bank accounts in India. So what are the rules, regulations regarding the NRE, NRO, FCNR accounts? One needs to fully understand. Very basics of NRE, NRO account I'm not getting into because it's very, very straightforward and simple. Complexities start when you have sale of some assets in India. The money is now received by you in your NRO account. Yes, RBI now relaxed rules that up to $250,000 or $250,000 per person, per family member, per year can be sent from India to overseas. But it is easier said than done. The practical side of it is pretty different. When you go to a bank and say, this is my money, please send it to me in US dollars, to US or to whichever country I'm living in, a lot of documents are required to prove this is your money. How did you get it? When did you invest? Did you inherit it? Did you invest it yourself? Have you paid taxes on it? Before the money can be remitted to you. So understanding the compliance requirements for all your investments is very, very important. Okay, so for friends who are living overseas with Indian passports or with overseas nationalities who have taken but still have OCI cards, we'll be happy to give you more information so that you are able to lead a better life. And if you have any complicated issues, we could provide you more information and knowledge so that you are able to take care of the difficulties. A lot of Indian regulations have been changing in the recent past. So we would like to keep you updated on the new circulars which have come in from RBI or the new laws which definitely impact NRIs. So if you have any difficulties, then we'd be happy to guide you and assist you with basic queries. Real estate laws pertaining to NRIs. Now, real estate is a sector where every NRI has some kind of an investment. Either he will inherit real estate in India, or he may have invested in India, is either already owning properties, may want to own properties, or may want to sell his properties. So I don't think any NRI can completely be away from the real estate sector in India. It has been one of the fastest growing sectors also earlier on, and in the long term, real estate has excellent investment opportunities in India. It's a fast growing economy, we all know. So, but the problem here lies with, if you have changed your nationality or if you are holding your NRI status, how do you smoothly, efficiently do a transaction in India? In terms of laws, we are, global best practices are sometimes still we have not adopted them in India. It is one of the biggest pain areas for not just domestic citizens, but definitely for NRIs, since you do not live here. You may have a trusted family or a friend, but nobody has the time to run around and help you solve your real estate issues, because there are many restrictions on overseas citizens or foreign nationals investing in India in real estate. Even NRIs are prohibited from buying agricultural land. Okay, the state rules and regulations are different in various countries, but there are various restrictions. And even when you own real estate, you will not keep it empty if you're not living in it, right? So you would definitely want to have a tenant who would pay good rent and have a tenancy contract. How do you make a good tenancy contract? Specifically when you are overseas, the tenant is in India, and obviously we have some of the tenancy laws in India are pretty outdated, and the legal, God forbid, if you ever have to fight a case on property matters in India, then it could take anywhere from minimum 2-3 years to go up to 10, 15, 20, 30 years, because there are various levels of courts which you have to go through. Finally, after a few years, it will go to High Court, it may go to the Supreme Court. So you don't want to get into a litigation battle on real estate. So it is extremely important for you to fully understand the rules and regulations which are related to real estate. What are the tenancy rules? We are assuming that you are a landlord, you have properties here, and you are giving your property on rent to either an individual or to a company. So should you go in for an 11th month lease? Should you go in a 3+3+3 for a commercial property? Rules and regulations for commercial and residential properties may vary. How do you register your agreements when you are physically not here, or you are making an 11-month lease? So does that mean after every 11th month you have to come in and sign new documents with existing tenants or new tenants? Or if you have to register your lease deed, then do you have to physically come to India? It's not easy, it is expensive, it is time consuming, long flights, expensive flights just to do your paperwork. Can it be done through a POA or a power of attorney? Is it advisable to have a GPA, a general power of attorney, or a specific power of attorney? We will in the next few videos give you more information so that probably it will make your life little simpler. that you could be managing your real estate and assets in India, even when you do not have to always visit India physically for it. Okay, now we will also go through some basic information which all NRIs need to keep track of. Do you have a PAN card? We've seen some people have, some people don't have. How do you get a PAN card made? How do you update it? OCI card, do you have it? Do you not have it? What is the current process for getting an OCI card made? What is the validity of it? How do you ensure that if you have Indian income or income coming out from Indian assets, it could be from a bank account, it could be rental income, it could be any income which is generated from India, how are you paying your taxes in India? Do you have a system or a dedicated chartered accountant to help you with it? Ensuring that, today now everything is connected. All bank accounts can only be operated if you have valid PAN cards. And in case you do not have, you may be surprised one day the bank account itself is frozen and the bank manager says, sorry, you cannot move your funds or do any transactions because the KYC has not been updated. It is a complex process. We are all using internet banking. You need a local mobile number to get your SMSs. How do you work that out effectively? You don't come to India for 6 months or a year at a stretch. Every mobile number, if it is not, the KYC is not done, again you will have to do the KYC requirements. So life is not very simple when you are looking at managing your money and your assets in India. But yes, the markets are too big. You cannot ignore the Indian market altogether. It is just how effectively you are able to manage and get organized, and we will give you more information and small tips which will help your life in managing all these Indian related issues properly. Thanks. If you have found this video useful, then please like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you.